Hello, my name is Dr. Donald Sorah. I'm Associate Professor of Music at the University of Virginia's College at Wise, and I'm pleased to be here once again to assist you as you prepare your All-Virginia Audition Etude for Trumpet 2023. Let's dig into the music. As we first investigate the music, we need to look at our overall meter. For this piece, it's not so challenging. We're looking at 4/4 and 3/4, so there's no compound meter, but we have to be able to navigate between 8th note subdivision, 16th note subdivision, and 8th note triplet subdivision. So 1 and 2 and 3 and a 4 and a 1 la li 2 la li 3 and a 4 and 1. To be able to move smoothly between those subdivisions. If you can do that, you're in good shape rhythmically for this piece. The overall key for the selection has 3 flats. While you may think that's the key of E flat, the home for this piece, the root, the tonic, is C. So that makes us in the key of C minor. If you don't know your C minor scale at this point, this would be a great opportunity to learn that and apply it to this etude. It would definitely help you to improve your performance on this piece. Be careful, there are places that move out of that key. You can see with accidentals. Just a couple I'd like to point out here are our D flat section with D flat arpeggio, D flat major arpeggio, D flat F A flat. So if an arpeggio is part of your vocabulary and you know the one in D flat, then this should be a piece of cake for you. Also, we see another little movement here, sort of to the key of D major, D F sharp A. So again, if you know your D major arpeggio, you know what that sounds like and you've played this, this is going to help you out. There are other instances of those throughout, but I would just like to point those out to get you started in your search. Next, I would recommend you to mark any accidentals that you might need throughout the piece. Each of us know ourselves as musicians and we can trust ourselves so much, but the pencil is a great friend and it's a great resource. So make sure that you mark on your piece of music any flats or any sharps you might find yourself missing. Do this before you play the music. So go through and look carefully. B flats, E flats, A flats. Are there any accidentals that change that or change any other pitches? Do they carry through the measure? Yes, they do. For example, here's a B natural that does carry on, so that's still B natural. So if you're prone to miss that, be sure to mark it in your piece. There are other examples throughout the piece between A naturals and A flats, E naturals and E flats, B naturals, B flats. Just make sure you use your pencil, use your resources. Next, let's investigate our intervals free of time. By saying that, I mean, let's slur through the whole piece, not really worrying about the tempo or the duration of the notes, just making sure, number one, our ears know what to expect. We can audiate the music and we know the pitches that are coming, so we stay on the right partials. And two, so that we have sufficient air behind everything to make those notes just kind of float out, to support them through all these acrobatic movements we're going to be making through this very short etude, short and challenging etude. It would sound something like this. You may notice through there, some of those worked very smoothly for me and some of those were a little challenging. So I would need to go back and isolate those places where I have challenges, mark them on the music, and practice them just individually before I put them back into the big picture. So that concludes pitch. Let's move on to rhythms. We want to be able to count all these rhythms. Hopefully your band training, your musicianship training has prepared you to be able to count in 16th notes, 8th notes, and in triplets. There are a variety of systems for each, but whatever system you might use, go through, set your metronome. Yes, I said your metronome. Yes, your metronome. And set it on a slow tempo, chord equals 60, chord equals 72. Even better with some type of subdivision, maybe 8th notes. So that you can get started and keep right in time. Count through all these rhythms. For example, and 1 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 to make sure you can make it all the way through. Once that's done, you're in good shape. If you find any places there that rhythms you haven't seen before, mark them down in a book so you increase your vocabulary and you can study that rhythm. Find something that doesn't work in context, isolate, 1 beat, 2 beats, and then put it back into the big picture. Now that we have rhythms and pitches done, let's move on into articulations. And in order to talk about that, I can share this resource with you, but I have gone through and annotated a little or notated a markup here of different things with different colors. So as long as you're not colorblind, you're in good shape. Also, this can get quite busy, so if it's too distracting for you, please use the other, but this might be a good study resource. Articulations on this sheet are marked in yellow. You can see the little marking at the bottom. It says they're in yellow. So if you look through, you'll see accents marked, and you'll see some yellow boxes. You may have to zoom in and look closely, but I have yellow boxes around some of these. 1, 2, 3 there, and 4 at the bottom. The reason I have those encapsulated in boxes is because they are different from the norm. If you look from the beginning, we have a lot of slur to tongue to, ti, ya, ta, ta. In the second full measure, the third full measure, and throughout the piece. So the first box I have is when it deviates from that. We have ti, ya, ta, ta, ta. So we've changed up that slur pattern. Is that important? Well, of course it is. That's what the composer wanted us to do, right? But also, because you're going to be in an audition with lots of fantastic musicians, you have to look at all the details. Almost everyone who comes into the audition will be able to play the right notes, to be able to play the right rhythms. The people who rise to the top, make the band, make the top few seats, are those who play the articulations and dynamics and play with confidence. So this is the icing on the cake. Pay close attention to that. Also note that I have marked in very faintly with a gray pencil some of my recommended edits here for articulations. I'm all about providing more contrast, and if I can play staccato eighth notes and accented dotted quarter notes, that's going to be great. Ta 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 tia ta 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 creates contrast versus da 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 da. Right? That's not so exciting. The first example shows lots of energy and lots of confidence in performance, which is what your audience is looking for, whether that is a little audience or an adjudicator. Articulations are important. Look for the repeating patterns and look for those unique or different articulations that provide contrast. Speaking of contrast, make sure that you do provide contrast, as my articulations state. How do you know if you're doing enough? Record yourself. There have been so many instances of musicians, myself included, thinking that I'm doing crescendos and lots of dynamic contrast, which is our next topic. And then I listen back to my recording and it's not happening. I feel it's happening, but it's not happening. So listen back to yourself. You might need to exaggerate what you're going for to make that contrast obvious to your listener. Next step, review your dynamics. This is a pretty simple piece dynamically, and especially with this edit here. Everything in green is dynamic. Forte, a subito mezzo forte, a series of fortes here with crescendos, decrescendos. It's pretty obvious, but do make that contrast. One particular spot that I've found is really important is right in this area. As you're about to wrap it up, you want to finish strong. Dot D, dot D, dot D, dot da, dot da. Really pull that dynamic back for some contrast. And those adjudicators and your audience will go, what was that? You'll capture their attention and they'll be excited and give you thousands of points, right? Or a standing ovation, depending on what the situation is. So review those dynamics. Sing through the piece with dynamics and articulations just as I did, as poorly as I did, or maybe hopefully better than I did. Next time, include your fingers. Pop those fingers down while you're singing the articulations. So for example, at the a tempo in the middle of the piece, what I just sang, we might hold the horn up and ta-ti, ta-ta, ta-tia, ta-ta-da, dee-da-da. Sing the articulations, sing the dynamics, and pop those fingers down. It really helps with the muscle memory, and you're taking the chops out of the equation. So that's a good thing to do when you're resting and saving your chops for the next run through. Okay, we're nearing the end here. Next, assemble the pieces again. We did pitches, rhythms. We ran through it. We added articulations and dynamics. Let's run through it again. Start slow with a You got it. Yes, with a metronome. Run through it with a metronome. Chord equals 60, chord equals 72, wherever you need to start. Start wherever you're going to be successful, and then ramp up that tempo day by day. Okay, as we continue to do that, you want to reach your peak tempo about 3 to 4 days before your audition. So that means you got to get started now, right? And try to improve a few clicks every day till we get there. A bit about that tempo. It says chord equals 120, right? Quarter equals 120. So question for you, is it better to play it chord equals 120 and ignore articulations, miss some notes? Or should you play at 112 and play it spot on, clean, accurate? Exactly. We're looking for accuracy. So if you can't get to 120, it's too sloppy, pull it back to 112 and nail it at 112. You'll be rewarded for that. Okay? Of course, if you can get to 120, outstanding. But tempo is not a big deal. Cleanliness and accuracy is a big deal. So lastly, or not lastly, close to it, record yourself again and critique your performance. Pretend that this is your arch rival, your nemesis, is you're listening to, and you can tear it apart and say, oh, they're not doing this, they're not doing this, they're not doing this. And then you realize, oh, that's me. And then you can go back and evaluate and write things into your part and prepare better. Okay, so it's always good to take a step back and listen to yourself from a distance rather than in the moment, because you can't fully analyze what you're playing. And then play with confidence. Regardless of your audition, all-state band, college scholarship audition, professional orchestra audition, audition for a military band, any of those auditions, the audience, the adjudicators are looking for a person who's going to play with confidence. Confidence has a full tone. Confidence plays with articulations. Confidence observes dynamics and makes music out of the piece. So please play with confidence as we wrap it up. So thank you for joining me on this short walkthrough of the piece. I'm not analyzing as deeply as I have the past couple years because I don't think it needs it. It's not quite as challenging as those in the past, in my opinion. So thanks again for joining me on this journey, and I wish you the best in your audition and your preparation. I hope that my comments and my tips have been helpful, and if this is something you like, give me a like on the video here. That would be awesome. Share a comment with how it's helped you improve or any questions you have as you're going through. I'll try to check this fairly often as we're moving up closer to the auditions and reply to your questions that you might have. And then if you'd like to, subscribe. This is sort of a hodgepodge channel of musical things. There may be concert performances, some composition shared, some educational resources. Feel free to like and subscribe the channel if you like, as they say. So let's wrap it up with that. Oh, yes, just what you're waiting for, right? The recordings. I have provided 2 recordings for you. The first one is at chord equals 190, which is great as you're preparing your piece so you can kind of zoom in and hear the details of the articulations without it blazing by so fast. And the second recording will be at chord equals 120, which is our eventual goal for performance tempo. Once again, thank you. I hope this has been helpful, and good luck on those auditions.